Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Mother Gaia Birthy Podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by the wonderful Abbie, a certified hypnobirthing instructor. Together we'll be debunking some of the common myths surrounding hypnobirthing and exploring how this incredible practice can make a positive impact on both pregnancy and birth. Abbie will also share a few simple techniques you can try at home to help you feel more calm and confident in your birth journey. Whether you're new to hypnobirthing or looking for more insights, this episode is filled with empowering advice. So, welcome Abbie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi. So I'm Abbie and I have set up Empowered Birthing. I'm kind of based in the West Midlands in the Malvern Hills, and I got into the birth world after having two very different birth experiences myself. And one was very kind of long-winded and medicalized, and one was at home but wonderful. But what they both had in common was just women not being told the truth about what was going to happen to them. And so one of my biggest missions is just to tell people the truth. Women are very intelligent, grown-up people, and they can handle information about their bodies. So that's what I want to get out there and do.
Excellent. So why did you then choose sort of hypnobirthing? What is it about that kind of put you down that path?
Well, I had done hypnobirthing to a certain extent with my first pregnancy. And I had this kind of preconceived idea of that it was, this kind of slightly hippie Gwyneth Paltrow vibe-esque thing of it. Lots of people in fluffy jumpers being very zen, which wasn't my experience of pregnancy at all. I was a rough prego. It was not good. But then when I did it with my first pregnancy, you could see there was so much potential in it. And the class that I did was one that had been run by the hospital. So it was amazing that they were offering it. So I kind of had a bit of a glimpse into it. And then it wasn't until I started studying for my diploma in antenatal education, and it had hypnobirthing teaching within that then I kind of fully understood the full menu of what it is, and how much of a difference it can make. And actually a lot of those preconceived ideas aren't true. A lot of people have a slightly narrow understanding of what hypnobirthing is, but there's actually so much more to it than that.
Yeah. Because I mean, sort of like, I didn't really do hypnobirthing in any of my pregnancies. Like you, I had a little bit of a glimpse into it, but it was part of an antenatal class that did lots of different things. And the closest I ever came to it, it just came across to me as, well, it's a meditation. It's not anything different than you close your eyes, you breathe in deeply, you try and trick yourself into this doesn't hurt at all, and then crack on. So how does it actually differ? What is it that is in hypnobirthing?
Well, that's the biggest thing, is that so many people think it's just sitting there while someone reads you a script, or it's fairy lights and whale sounds. And whale sounds does not a positive birth make. It's, there's so much more to it than that. So I always kind of describe it as like a menu of knowledge and techniques. It's never just one thing. It's a process really of unlearning what you think you know about birth and your body, and then relearning how to do it on your own terms. And it's also about really understanding physiological birth, undisturbed physiological birth and the hormones, and how actually a lot of our modern day systems are really counterintuitive. So it's really empowering because it's helping you realize you've got everything in you already. And it's just recognizing that it's not someone else. It's not like, a circus sideshow act where someone's going to be swinging a pocket watch and then you're suddenly going to be jumping up and down. It's just shining a light on what you've already got inside you. But it's also very much a thing where you can pick and choose what works for you. Some people love visualizations, because it can help distract your brain and kind of break that fear, tension, pain cycle. But some people, I personally, when I was pregnant, could not get on with it, because I was just very aware that I was sat in a hospital room in Kent trying not to piss myself every time I coughed. Yeah. And it was just like, I couldn't get that out of my head. However, other techniques like anchoring to my senses, so having a cushion that kind of really brought on that oxytocin because of the touch of it, it provided some distraction for my brain because it had a pattern I could kind of focus on and count. I could squeeze it to help get through those different sensations. And that is still very much a hypnobirthing technique. But it's about recognizing the full menu of what those kind of things are, and like tailoring your birth space, looking at how you can move your body and breathe during birth. So it's not just one thing, and it can work for, it's also not a guarantee either. I think a lot of people assume that if they're going to sign up to a hypnobirthing class, then it's for one type of birth, and it's a guarantee for, okay, well, I've done hypnobirthing, so therefore I will get the birth I want.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, hypnobirthing can be for all birth, for elective C-sections, emergency C-sections. You've got all those techniques and tools that you've been working on. But it's also just, it's one of many factors that's going to come into play with your birth.
Yeah. I mean, for me, obviously just talking to you there, the things that you're describing, and it's having many different things that are a part of it, again, from a point of view of, this is the most anybody's ever talked to me about hypnobirth before. So my thing of, oh, well, yeah, you breathe in a balloon and then you blow it out and that's another contraction, and then you move on the next balloon kind of thing. Knowing that the stuff that you're actually saying is stuff that I tell people all the time without it being under the heading of hypnobirthing. It's very much like, this is a distraction technique, or this is a calming technique, or this is something else. And it is, as you say, it is the whole of pregnancy and giving birth and all that sort of stuff, is having knowledge of different things that you can pull on. So, this isn't working, let's try something else. Or this made me feel calm in pregnancy, let's try that. And knowing what your body is doing to be able to know what it is that you need to draw on. I love the fact, I'm just looking at some of the stuff that you sent over, and I love the fact that you've actually got your stuff set out like a menu, like you were going to a restaurant.
Yeah, it was one of those things that when I kind of heard it described as a menu of techniques, I was like, well, that makes so much sense, because again, it's why all of my stuff, I always call my courses antenatal and hypnobirthing education, because they work together.
Yeah.
And really, if someone is saying that they do hypnobirthing, they're doing antenatal education as well.
Yeah.
But you can get antenatal education without the hypnobirthing stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
So I like to integrate them both, because it's such an interplay and it's a mix of everything. But there is a lot of expectation of, people think that a hypnobirthing class, for example, will be them sat in a room while someone reads a relaxation script and then they have a little nap, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's never about it should never be about the person delivering the class or delivering the course. It's about that person helping the women and birthing people and couples feel equipped and confident to be able to do these things themselves.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be about kind of relying on someone else to do it for you. So it's why, like, I would say to people, you can have a relaxation script, but you will relax so much better if you take that home with you and you listen to that recording when you're in bed, rather than in a room on a chair surrounded by other people.
Yeah.
Being slightly aware of everyone. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about creating that environment and being able to have certain things that you can then move that environment around with you. So like you said, if you associate, say, that script with being at home in a nice comfy bed with a particular blanket, with a certain smell, with certain lighting, and you know that you can take that blanket anywhere you want. You can take that smell in a bottle anywhere you want. You can always dim the lights wherever you are, and you can play that recording. You'll then instantly go back to those places where you felt the most relaxed. And it's not necessarily, like you said, yes, the script and the visualization, whatever, they're lovely, but on their own, they're not brilliant. It's when you've got those other things that you're putting into it, and like you said, the education in it. Absolutely.
And it's also, it takes work. Hypnobirthing is not a quick fix. It's not something that, you know, it's not going to do anything if you just buy some tracks online and then listen to them when your labor starts. A birth playlist that isn't listened to during pregnancy is just noise. Because you need to actually put that work and effort and practice into it for it to be most effective. You know, you get out what you put in.
Absolutely.
And you know, you need it to be, if you're listening to that birth playlist when you're pregnant and you're just around doing your daily things, or when you're, you know, doing something you enjoy, being with people you love, then when you listen to it, then you're going to be filled with all that nostalgia. Really, it's just utilizing nostalgia. It's that same thing, you know, when you hear an ice cream van and you suddenly revert to being a 6-year-old, you're like, oh, I really want an ice cream now. That's exactly what, you know, anchoring and hypnobirthing techniques do. It's bringing that about. And you know, marketing and advertisements use anchoring all the time. It's why when you, at Christmas especially, you smell a bit of cinnamon in a shop and you are suddenly immersed in Christmas. And that's what hypnobirthing does for your birthing body. You understand what creates that, you know, ideal birth space for you, and then you work to recreate it. And what I love about hypnobirthing when it's done effectively is that it doesn't have to be the same for everyone. You know, I might have certain songs on my playlist that are a little bit slower, a little bit more calm, but I know someone that had like noughties, emo music blaring out, because for her that was what helped that oxytocin and those endorphins flow, and that's what she needed. And that's, I know
someone who had AC/DC is theirs.
See, it's perfect. And that's when it's just that recognition, which is very, you know, goes against a lot of the medicalization models, but that recognition that every birthing body is different, and every birthing mind is different, every birthing experience is different, and therefore the way that you prepare for it should be different as well.
So before I get on to, because I want to go back into sort of like the science of it and the things I've been on. Before I do that, I want to ask you a completely random question. You said that visualizations weren't your favorite part. So what is your favorite part?
Oh, you know what? It's changed quite a bit over time. I mean, the knowledge stuff, I'm a massive nerd. So I love all of the unpicking of like really unhelpful stuff that then you go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was so problematic. But then anchoring, I think, is one of the easiest ones to do. So you've got certain objects that are tied into your senses. So perhaps, like I said, a smell or a sound or a texture that then suddenly fills you with that feeling. And it's so easy to do wherever you are. But I have also really learned to appreciate affirmations. It was something that I always thought was, you know, slightly airy-fairy or whatever. But since I have started writing my own affirmations and using them on a daily basis, then, you know, you really do start to understand the power of positive self-talk. And when you are telling yourself every day of I am powerful, I'm strong, then it really does sink in. And I think sometimes it's about finding ones that are your style or crafting your own. I think some of them can be very twee and airy-fairy, but I personally like ones that are a little bit more punchy / sweary, essentially.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. The ones that are like, oh, the God is amazing, placed in garden of where, like, yeah, oh yeah, right, okay, whatever, get a life. Whereas it's, I'm gonna boss this bitch. Yeah, that's the ones that I like.
I think because I've written somewhere, some of them are like, if you tell me to be quiet, I will fucking roar, which is one of my favorite ones, because again, like, you know, language is so important when you're birthing, and you know, just having that thing of like, I'm not screaming, I am roaring this baby out. And there's a big difference. Even if you think physically, the word scream, you immediately kind of tense up. And then roar, everything just loosens and it does what you need it to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on a similar sort of thing, the power of wording and the words that you use and the things that you're thinking of and what have you. I mean, I do like the powerful ones, don't get me wrong. They're more my daily kind of go-to. But for me, for ones in birth, the ones that helped me personally were more the funny ones. Because obviously you're still inducing that oxytocin, you're still being in that happy space, you're still being more relaxed, because it's easier to laugh and be relaxed than it is to try and relax after you're giving it what for. And some of the better ones that I liked was Floppy Face, Floppy Fanny.
Oh, I love that one.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other one was I Moo Like a Cow. Just because the move sound is such a good, it's a deep guttural kind of noise, and it's really like down there and what have you. But the thought of it, you get so far through, go moo. It's just it helps so much, and people don't realize that. Yeah, it can be serious, but come on.
Oxytocin isn't the only hormone in birth, and it's so often, like, it's very important, don't get me wrong, but there are so many other hormones, and endorphins can be really great. They're your, you know, natural pain relief, and so having something that makes you laugh can be like just what you need at that moment. So like one of the things that I do is when we look at birth movement, I don't like to call it birth positions because it sounds like choreography of just like, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And it, you know, a lot of it is more instinctual. So when we practice, when we look at birth movement, we have, you know, kind of poster of different movement and positions that you might get into, but rather than spending loads of time practicing it, because you're going to naturally move into those positions later on, it's just knowing what you can do and what ones are best for physiology. But what we do is we come up with funny names for them. So that in that moment, I had with my one of my classes, I won't use his real name, but say, for example, his name was Phil, and there was his partner, and one of the positions was, you know, squatting down on all fours, I think, with his legs spread, and she called that Phil's best day. So
fair enough. I've gone on a slight tangent with that, and I won't tell you where I went with that. It had something to do with filling cracks.
But can you imagine if that was suddenly what came to you, and then you just have that moment of just release, like, and hilarity and laughter, that can suddenly break any lingering tension, and that is just as important to promote and build as oxytocin and those feelings of calm and zen.
So the science of it. Obviously, a lot of people say, like we've already discussed, it's very airy fairy, sitting in a room, blah 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 blah, and we've already discussed that it's not that. And obviously, I do know that a lot of the stuff that you've already spoken about, the knowledge of it, understanding physiological birth and how your body works and things like that. But can you just go through some of the main sort of science research specifically for hypnobirthing?
So a lot of it is based on Grantley Dick Reed's work around the fear, tension, pain cycle, with the theory that when you feel fear, when you're afraid of something, then your body tenses up, physically gets tense, and that when our body is physically tense, we feel pain more acutely and more sharply. And then when you're feeling that pain, you then feel more fear about that pain. Then you tense more, then you experience more pain, and then it spirals and gets out of control. So what hypnobirthing seeks to do is to break the fear, tension, pain cycle, and through different things. So we can break the initial fear by understanding more about your birth physiology and the hormones and how it works, and normalizing what real birth looks like. You can break tension, physical tension, with optimal birth movement, and looking at how you can do your birth space so that you feel calm. And then you have the pain management techniques. I don't always like the term pain relief, because it's management. It's how you ride that wave, and you can do that through breathing, through massage, water, TENS machines, but also knowing all the other options that you have, and you have explored them so that you know under what circumstances you would have those. So it's all about breaking down those different things. And there's also this understanding of, in our kind of modern culture, modern Western culture, then we have almost built birth up in our heads as a learned skill. And birth isn't a learned skill. It's not like driving a car. It's not like something you practice and then you can just suddenly do. But because we think of it as this learned skill, then we find it really hard to turn off our prefrontal cortex. So we have the kind of limbic system of our brain, which is much more instinctual and instinctive, and manages our breathing, but our prefrontal cortex gets in the way. So it's a bit like that feeling, when you're trying to go to sleep and your brain is just buzzing, and you cannot get it to shut up and just let your limbic system take over and let you go to sleep. So some of the hypnobirthing techniques are very similar to the kind of things that you would do to go to sleep. Like if you think about the traditional counting sheep, all that's doing is tasking your prefrontal cortex with a job, so that then that's like, oh, it's distracted, that's got something shiny to do. So then your physical needs can then just take over, and then your body becomes relaxed. And that's a lot of what the hypnobirthing, like the visualizations are doing, are just distracting your brain, your prefrontal cortex, with something shiny, so then your body can focus on what it needs to do. And then so much research now that it has been used more in birth, then research is showing that people who use hypnobirthing methods do then have reduced pain, or they report reduced pain, shorter duration of labor, and they have less kind of they're less likely to need medical intervention. And a lot of that is because they're feeling more relaxed, but mainly I think it's because they're feeling more in control. They're more aware of what their body is doing, how they themselves can support it through that journey, rather than feeling that they're just left in the control of other people.
So is there anything that anyone who's listening can just have a go at trying, that might take a couple of minutes, just for them to get a feel of what hypnobirthing is, how it works? Is there one little tip that you could give someone who is pregnant right now?
A very easy one is just to imagine, when you're at school and you're learning about the five senses, just imagining those five senses, and you are, just almost closing your eyes and thinking of what makes you feel, at your best, what makes you feel the most calm. And don't necessarily think about the kind of additive things. What do you need to add to it? Think about what you've already got, and the more cerebral elements of, how am I being communicated to? How am I being made to feel by the people I'm with? Because they're the things that then you can take to any birth space that you're going to. And sometimes it's just that little thing of the cerebral element that you can then take to different places. In terms of something that people could literally do right now, there is one, you're going to have to edit this bit out.
Okay.
Because there's a really good brain distraction one which we can do.
Okay.
So something that can, a technique to really help you feel relaxed and distract your brain, which you can do to help you fall asleep or just to kind of feel more calm, is with your eyes closed and just doing even breaths of inhale for 4 seconds and then exhale for 4 seconds, nice kind of square breathing, is you just say to yourself in your head, I can see, and then something that either comes to your mind or something that is around you, and then and I can hear, you know, one thing, perhaps birds, and then I can feel, and perhaps my blanket, and I am going deeper relaxed. And then you start again, but this time you add something else. So I can see the window and I can see a plant. I can hear the birds and I can hear the clock ticking. And I can feel my blanket and I can feel my pillow and I am going deeper relaxed. And then you go through another cycle, and it's just distracting your prefrontal cortex with a job. So then your body is left with this just overwhelming feeling of relaxation and calm while you're distracting that prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, it's like that that school game that I went to the shop and I bought an apple, and the next one I went to the shop, I bought an apple and a banana, and you go through the alphabet. It's very similar, and but you're going a little bit further into that because you are then bringing in your senses of what you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel, and things like that. I know that's also a good anxiety technique.
It's just grounding.
Yeah. Amazing. Is there anything else that you want to add? Anything else that you think that you wanted to share with us?
I think one of the biggest things that I kind of want people to know about hypnobirthing, that I have kind of touched on, but there is no one way of doing it. Quite often we think there is just one idea of what hypnobirthing is. It's this fluffy Zen, yeah, mama, you're doing a great job kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be if that's not your vibe. It can be. If that works, then that's brilliant. But there is a way of picking from that menu of techniques that can work for everyone in every circumstance. But it does take that time to understand what's going to work best for you. And it is so important to take these things, try them out and apply them to your circumstances. And if it doesn't work, if you don't like it, just don't keep trying with it. Your time is too precious. So if you try a visualization and you're like, oh, well, that's crap, I didn't like that. It's not that hypnobirthing doesn't work. It's just that particular, you don't like that one on the menu. So you'll go for a different one. Yeah. And it's just that, take that time to pick and choose.
Absolutely. Brilliant. And very last one then. So if anybody wants to come and do hypnobirthing with you or wants to find you anywhere, where are you? Where can they get in contact with you?
Well, my website is empoweredbirthing.uk, and I do online private antenatal and hypnobirthing courses. I do face-to-face group and private ones in my little spot down in the Malvern Hills. But I also share stuff on my social media as well, which is empowered.birthing.malvernhills.
That wraps up this episode of Mother Gaia Birthy Podcast. A huge thank you to Abbie for sharing her expertise and to giving us some valuable hypnobirthing tips. I hope you found today's discussion as inspiring as I did. Be sure to tune in next week when I'll be chatting with Rebel Jones, who will be sharing her incredible birth story where she chose a path outside of NHS guidance. It's going to be a truly empowering episode you don't want to miss. In the meantime, you can stay connected with me on my social media. Just check out the links in the show notes below. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can head over to the Buy Me a Coffee page. Your support helps me continue creating these amazing conversations. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.